Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Sincerely Agile with Mary. Now, if you're joining us for this first time, this is a platform where we want to learn, unlearn, and relearn, make change agents of ourselves, and above all, it's a place where we want to be awesome and wholesome together. My name is Mary Lanio, and as always, I am your host. Now, today we're looking at this topic learning at the speed of need. Now, we all know that the environment is changing faster than the speed of light, and we have to keep learning. So, this is what we're talking about today. And I have with me Winifred Ereyi. She's an electrical and electronics engineer and the founder of Think STEM Foundation. And I'm just going to welcome her to the show. Hello, Winifred.
Hi, Mary. It's
How
good
are
to be
you?
here. It's good to be here. I'm fine. I'm doing well.
It is so good to have you on the show. I mean, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a while. So I'm happy you have finally made the time to show up. I have known you for decades, almost 40 years now. I have known you. And in those 40 years, I believe I have only seen you physically once in England about maybe 30 years ago or 25 years ago, something like that. So, how have you been? How have you been keeping?
I have been well. I've been doing well, raising children, mentoring youth, and just, contributing to the body of knowledge in the world of STEM education and doing work within my community. So life has been interesting. Life is never a straight line.
Never,
We
never.
just go with the flow. We make lemonades out of the lemon that life has
Lemons.
thrown us.
Absolutely. And life does throw us some curved balls or curved lemons, if you like.
Yeah.
But like you said, we just have to make lemons out of them. So good to have you on the show. We obviously are streaming live. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we have a few people joining us already. We've got a LinkedIn user there. I can't see your name. And yeah, we will have some more people join us. But while we're waiting for more people to join us, I would like to introduce you, properly. I do have your bio. So I'm going to read out your bio so that our audience can get to know you, a little better. So here we go. Winifred is the founder of EY Communications and its subsidiary, ThinkSTEM Foundation. EY Communications is a professional services organization. They provide speaking, coaching, advocacy, leadership training, mentoring, facilitation, event, and project management. Think STEM Foundation is focused on building the minority female tech talent pipeline. They provide diverse programs to inspire and empower future tech professionals to break free from barriers to pursue STEM careers. Their STEM outreaches have reached thousands of girls globally. Winifred is a John Maxwell certified speaker, coach, leadership trainer as well. She has a BSc in electrical and electronics engineering and a master's in telecommunications and systems engineering. Now, Winifred, that is an impressive bio right there, and you are welcome to Sincerely Agile with Mary.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, in your bio there, what I really liked about this STEM, paragraph there was when you talked about the pipeline. Okay. I love the word because in my field, we talk about CICD pipeline, that continuous flow, that continuous delivery, right? So when you talk about a pipeline, you're talking about how we can continuously, right? Continuously inspire, educate, inform. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, when you're talking about a pipeline, we're really talking about being able to work with the girl child and mentor her so that she can enter into the tech career, into any tech career she would like that fits her personality and her skill set. And then you are talking about also mentoring the young tech professional so that she stays in the tech career, because in tech careers you find that females are minorities. So attrition is very high. So that's why we really look at the talent pipeline. We want to support the young female tech professional, whether she's a tech professional or an engineer or working in science. We want to put an arm around around her, so that she doesn't feel like a minority, and she stays and she thrives and she's able to break the glass ceiling. So it's a pipeline all the way from middle school, or even as far back as elementary. There's programs that, like, first robotics, first Lego League. There are programs sparking interest in STEM in young kids, young girls, and then continue to sow the seed, continue to nurture it all through middle school and high school, onto university, and all the way through until she retires. So that's why it's a pipeline. You can always get
Absolutely.
in at any stage of
At
this
any
pipeline.
stage. Okay, that is fantastic because obviously, like you said, being able, the access is important because the whole idea is to be able to encourage more girls and women, if you like, into this space. And that is also part of what I do on this platform, trying to encourage people to come into the agile and tech space because, like you said, it is, highly dominated, male dominated environment, and this is coming from women thinking it's such a technical space, I can't cope, kind of thing. But another thing I say to people is that this tech space, it's like I always like using the hospital as an example. If you go to a hospital, everybody in the hospital is not a doctor, right? Everybody is not a surgeon. You have some people who are doing admin work. Okay, you have some people who are doing marketing even for the hospital. You have some people who are doing project management. So it's important that I think people, fully understand the scope of work that is involved in that space. And there's still more work for us to do, even on this platform, to create more awareness in that regard. More people joining us. Hello, hello. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining. Hello, Ronke. Nice to have you here. Kemi, thank you for joining. Tutu, is so nice to see you. Now, Winifred, you've just talked about having your arms around girls, inspiring them. Who was your inspiration? Who was your inspiration growing up?
This is my signature story. So, Mrs. Olumaduka, the first female engineer of Nigeria. So, when I was 14, in Form 4, I attended Queen's College, Lagos, Nigeria. Mrs. Olumaduka came to Queen's College for a career day, and she talked about her career. Also, up to that time, I'd never met a female engineer. I'd met female accountants, female lawyers, female doctors, but never a female engineer, and definitely none in high heels and with a lipstick. And I was like, holy smokes, she's an engineer. And I still remember the speech, and I was like, really? She's describing me. She's describing a career that's a good fit. And previous to that, I mean, I was a very brilliant young girl, and so I could do any career. But I needed one that I did not have to stay in the office. I can't believe these days I work in the office. I'm an extrovert, very outgoing. So I needed to be able to move around. And the way she described engineering and the work she does, and the fact that engineering was all about solving problems, that got my attention. And so I remember leaving the auditorium, the Queen's College auditorium, and I did a beeline to my advanced class, additional mathematics class. And my goal was to get other girls
Mm-hmm.
to come alongside, and for all of us to go and study engineering. So some girls said I brought them into engineering. And from the day they entered engineering to the day they left, they don't know exactly what engineering was all about. But I always believe that every girl should have a sister tribe. So I love to hang out with my sister tribe. And so we went to study engineering together, and we went to the University of Lagos, where both of us met. And so that was it, Mrs. Olumaduka. But I tell you what's so interesting, just with all the work I do with mentoring and advocacy, I was able to become friends with Mrs. Olumaduka, and in 2020, no, I think it was 2021, 2021, 2022, I can't remember. No, it was 2021. I was able to um, um, recommend her to be inducted into Women in Technology International Hall of Fame. So it's a prestigious Hall of Fame. So I was able to put a crown on her head, because Mrs. Olumaduka is the founder of Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria. So I am not the only one she's motivated. There are so many people. So Mrs. Olumaduka did not just become an engineer, she actually opened the door for other engineers. And she did that when she was just, I think, late 30s when she founded Upwind, but she founded Upwind the year after she came to Queen's College. So she's a role model to so many people. So she's the one that introduced me, sparked my curiosity to pursue engineering, and I'm glad that I put a crown on her head.
Oh, fantastic. What an interesting story. Very inspiring. And there's a lot to take away from that. For myself, for people watching, it just goes to show that we have our work cut out for us, regardless of the field we're in. Whether you're a nurse, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an engineer, a doctor, or an IT person like myself, we have our work cut out for us, especially in the world today, and especially from where we're coming from our climate, Africa, Nigeria. There's still so much that we need to do for the girl child in that environment, in encouraging them. I mean, the other day I saw a very disturbing video of a young girl that wanted to be forced into marriage. And she said, no, she wants to go to school. She was barely 13, 14 years old. And thank God for awareness. If a few decades ago, she would have just gone with the flow, but she put her foot down. She said, no, I don't want to be married. I want to be educated. So we really do have our work cut out for us. And that was just an inspiring story right there. Now, talking about, let's go back a few decades, right? Unilag, your love and passion for learning was something I saw firsthand. Okay. I saw that firsthand because we were roommates. Okay. I remember the room very well. I experienced that firsthand. When we were busy trying to squeeze ourselves into a car to go to a nightclub to go and party, you will see Winifred with her bag heading to the faculty to go and study. When we are coming back from our disco and everything, you will see Winifred just coming back from the faculty. I saw you not sleeping. I'm telling you this, Winifred. The other day when my sister, your paths crossed with my sister, and my sister was going to do some MC work for something you were doing in Nigeria. And then when I saw the flyer, all I said to my sister was, that's the Winifred I told you doesn't sleep. That's the Winifred I told you said sleeping is an unnecessary luxury. That was what you told me, Winifred. Because one day I had to say, Winifred, won't you sleep? Because we will go to sleep, you will be studying. We will wake up, you will still be at that table studying. So one day I just had to ask you, Winifred, won't you sleep? And you said, Mary, sleeping is an unnecessary luxury. I have never forgotten that statement. That was your response to me. Sleeping is an unnecessary luxury. I mean, it's not as if you didn't sleep at all, but you hardly slept. When we were sleeping, you were studying. So for me, that stuck with me. And when I started to, I mean, I have my own attributes. I love knowledge. I love studying. I love developing, but nowhere near the level at which you do it. And there have been times in my life when if I feel I'm not matching up to my standards, I will just remember Winifred. All I have to do is remember you. That's all I have to do. I'll remember you and then I'll step up again. So you have been an inspiration to me. Tell us more. Your love and passion for learning. Tell us
Well,
more
I
about that.
believe that I'm going to actually change that about the sleeping at the end of what I say, because sleeping is not an unnecessary luxury. It is
Well, it is necessary, but then you were so driven, you hardly
yes,
slept. I'm
yes,
giving a first-hand account. We were
yes.
roommates.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so when I got admission to enter the University of Lagos, I'd gotten the second highest JAM result, and so I kind of felt on top of the world. And when I got into University of Lagos and decided I was going to study electrical and electronics engineering, I was told that girls, that's not a course for girls, and also that the girls that study that particular course, because it's so intellectually rigorous, they are really at the bottom of the class. So I was like, really? So this course is gender selective. What type of course is this? I remember I'd gone to university with my sister tribe. So it was a challenge, and I said And my father, when my father was with me, I still remember that day. My father was is late now. He was a lawyer, so he said, "Oh, you don't know how brilliant my daughter is. My daughter is going to change that narrative." And there's so much power in what parents say to their children. There's so much power. Your parents provide the foundation. They don't just provide accommodation, they don't just provide food, but they help to build your self-esteem. So my father spoke those words to me, to the lecturer, and I was there, and his word of confidence was, "Oh, you don't know how brilliant my daughter is." And so it was a challenge, really. So when I got in at 16, I already had that challenge and that mandate that, hey, you are going to step up, girl. You are going to show them what you are made up of. But it was a mission bigger than me, because what they said was that no girl pursues this course at a top level. Most girls that pursue the course, they are at the bottom of the
At the
class, and that
bottom.
the course is intellectually rigorous. So I looked at my girlfriends. I was like, we have come from Queen's College. We know who has taught us. They've given us, in terms of self-esteem, we were there. In terms of family background, we had it. So I said, girlfriends, we are going for, we're going to cut off the line to the brakes, and we're going to put our foot on the accelerator, and we are going for the gold. So that set my mind. So I went there to prove a point. So that's why you saw me studying. I love to study. My parents put the love of education into all their children's life, just because of the difficulty they had in assessing education. My grandfather was a farmer and illiterate. He didn't want my father to go to school. My father had to get a scholarship. And then when my father got the scholarship, he refused to sign the paper. They were divorced. My father had to go and look for his mother, who he did not know. So there was some backstory. So education was so important. My mother, her parents loved education, but they felt it was for guys, not for female. They wanted her to go and become a trader because all the women were traders. So, and my mother had to stand her ground in order to go to school. So, from the time they had the children, education, my mother was retired headmistress. So education was kind of the ethos of our home, and especially reading. You had to read a book at a certain age, and each age had a different books. And then you had to write an essay on the book you read, no matter how young you were. And it was just a discipline. But what does that do? That what they were doing was setting our mindset,
Yes.
giving us a mindset of being readers, being curious about knowledge, wanting to learn, and so when I got that challenge that no female had finished up, I was like, hey, you are going to see I am going to shatter that class ceiling. I am going to get more than a first class. I am just going to, but I'm not going to do it for me alone. So the mission was bigger than me. I was going to do it for me, just like Mrs. Olumaduka had done. I was going to open the door so that every other female could have a seat at the table. So those days you saw me in the library. I remember that I brought my sister tribe with me, my friend Tosi. I said, Tosi, we're going to the
I
library.
remember Tosin, smallish in stature. I
Yes.
remember her.
And my friends, I would say Connie, there was also another friend, Constance. And so I always, because I am kind of project-based learning. Project-based learning is kind of the way, my DNA, my ethos. I learn within the community of people. So whatever I learn, I like to share.
Share.
So not only will I learn, and I loved mathematics. I was the sort of person that could just solve mathematical problems without a pen and paper. I could
Hmm.
solve it mentally. But whatever I learned, I just love to teach other people. So really, my background, in terms of my family background, the history of my parents and their difficulty with education, and also the encouragement and support of my family. And then I had a professor who loved me forever, Professor James Katende. Still now, he still likes all my Facebook posts. He's over
Wow.
in Namibia. And at 16, when I will answer, I was that sort of student that will always put up my hand. The sort of student that you will hate. Before they finish asking the question, I know the answer. I put up my hand. Some people dislike me till today because of that. But because he saw I was a voracious learner and a very quick learner, he told me, said, when you could get a first class. And so what do we see? We see people feeding me with this image that I could break this, shatter this
Feeling.
glass ceiling. There's my father, and then there's Professor James Katende, and they didn't leave it at that. They supported me all throughout that journey. My father bought me a computer at 17-year old. That's so long ago. So it gave me the resources and the tools. So in order to foster a love for learning and with the youth, you have to encourage, but you also have to give them tools and resources. You have to create an enabling environment. And so the home front, like I see Miriam, the home front was real strong foundation. And the school itself, with Professor James Katende, and the library at that time, it was well equipped, so there were so many books, and because I love to learn, I could go from one book to the other. And
Yeah,
today I love to learn. My children will say, if you're looking for my mom, either look for her in church or look for her in the library.
in the library.
I still love to learn, and my children have picked that up. My son, when he would get disciplined in school, they would take a book from him. That was his discipline. So they were so frustrated with him because he was a very fast learner, and he
Yeah,
got tired. He learned
yeah,
so quickly. So he would pick up a book and read while they are teaching. And so they discouraged him from reading so much that now in Stanford, he's just picked back his love for learning. So there's
mm,
always a balance in everything. So
absolutely,
I think I was
absolutely.
a bit out of balance there because I wanted to get the first class.
You were so driven,
I'm
honestly.
still a very driven
I
human
mean,
being.
how does a 19-year-old tell you? I mean, we couldn't have been more than 19 or 18 at the time, or 20 at the most. That sleeping is an unnecessary luxury. Come on. But I hope you're sleeping well these days.
Ah, sleeping is a gift from God. At that time, and really, in engineering, it was intellectually rigorous. It's
I
not
know.
electrical and
It's not a
electronics.
walk in the park.
It was working
No,
even
it's
till
not.
now. Electrical and electronics engineering was intellectually rigorous. You had the theory, you had the workshop, and then you had this continuous assessment. So it was absolutely not a walk in the park. And in order for me to achieve my goal, I had to remove distractions. And
Mm,
the only distraction I allowed into my life was the community of Christian fellowship,
mm,
because Christian fellowship was very important to me.
yeah.
So I needed that focus, because the teachers will come and give you all this surprise test, and they'll say, Winifred, did you see this test before I gave it? I say, no, I am ahead of you.
I'm ahead of you.
You give me a test. I have already read the material. Not to
I am
worry.
ahead of you.
So it was
Now,
it was
you talked about how your family, I mean, family generally is not just about the food and the shelter. It's also about instilling that confidence in children. And as you can see, one of our audience here is saying, home is, for the foundation, the love and the learning. That is where we really get energized. That is where we get our direction from. So for all of us, listening here, young mothers, if you're here, this is it. That foundation is so, so, so important. And when we feel we have that foundation, we have that safety, and that confidence to go out there and be anything and do anything. That is also important. And you talked about community learning. That is also my space, and that is one great thing that you and I have in common. I happen to have loved maths a lot. I did maths, I did add maths. And when I was in secondary school, I would stay back for 2 hours, 3 hours, teaching people who didn't understand what happened in class. I would stay back and learn. So, and that is still me today. And that is an attribute I think serves the community till today. Whatever we are doing, it's not just for us alone. It is to also go out there and to be of service to humanity. And that I really appreciate about the STEM work that you are doing. And we have some very interesting comments here. Yes, yes, family is amazing. Ronke's talking about focus. I like to carry our family, our audience along. And Mariama is saying yes to something you said there. So back to some of my questions. Now, mentoring young girls in STEM. You have a foundation, right? Think STEM Foundation. Tell us more about that.
So really, really looking at the work Mrs. Olumaduka had done, where Mrs. Olumaduka came to my school and really talked, and she helped me connect the dots. She helped what I was learning in the classroom connect to a career and just made it more relevant to the world that we live in, to the problems in the world that we live in. And you find that for girls to study careers in STEM, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and
Mhm.
mathematics, in case some people do not know. For them to study careers in STEM, they need a different modality in terms of teaching modality. When a boy is young, the father will take the boy to the garage to fix a car. He will give the boy a spanner, but you find out that girls, they are giving dolls and things like that,
Or
not,
put into the kitchen.
yeah, or they're taking to the kitchen. So you find out that the sort of environment for girls to pursue STEM is not really created within the home setup, unless the parent is very intentional. Like some people, their parents are already engineers, so they already have that advantage. But most times the girls do not have that advantage. So it's important for us to go into the community and act as role models. It's important for us to go there and talk about our career, what our career is. Role models matter, especially representation matters. That means a black female, you may be just like I never met an engineer who was female until I met Mrs. Olumaduka. I have 4 engineering degrees, so you may be the first person that a black girl is seeing. So representation matters, role model matters. But what is important is that girls typically at a young age, I knew that for me to learn and for me to keep on this track, I needed to create a sister tribe. And you find out that research says that that is the best environment for girls, unlike guys, that girls like to learn amongst other girls. So when you go out into the community and you speak about your career, you cannot leave it at that. You are just sowing seeds. You need to nurture that seed,
Nurture
and that's
it.
where coaching comes in. Because a lot of times they may be interested in mathematics, but they do not know how mathematics connects, what type of STEM career that they want to pursue. So they need to be guided. So mentoring is absolutely critical. I mean, it's one of my lifebloods. I love to mentor, and I mentor
Mhm.
so many young people. And then, but coaching too is a bit different from mentoring. Coaching is helping them step up to meet their potential. So mentoring is more long term. Coaching is
Mhm.
more short term. It's more
Mhm.
performance oriented. So
Mhm.
you need all of this in order to get the girl child into first into college and then into a career that suits their personality. I work with quite a number of parents, and my through my coaching, because I do a 3-hour coaching session first when I have a new student. And really what I'm looking at is personality. What is your personality? Because I want to make sure that you are going to be pursuing a career that you're going to enjoy, and you're going to do it in an environment that you can thrive in. You can be very brilliant, but you may be somebody that chokes under stress. We don't want you to go to an Ivy League school that is very, very stressful. So you find that another school with the same academic curriculum, maybe the school that you would thrive in. So you
Mm.
can't understand that sort of information unless you can know that unless you do the coaching. And most times, young girls don't have insight. That means they can't see their own awesomeness.
Yeah.
So through the coaching, you are able to, because I use a 5 module
And
system.
that is what coaching is all about, helping people tap into their own, hidden capabilities, if
Yes,
you like, their
yes.
talents.
Yeah, and I'm telling you the results that I have gotten, and the impact on the community, because typically I work with low income, I call them first generation low income within my community. And you find that because a lot of them don't have role models, a lot of them, their parents haven't gone to university. So that coaching is essential, because you have to get them to believe in themselves, and get them to believe that the university will pay for their education. But the impact of that is that when they do graduate, they go back to their community and they now become role models. They now open the door. So it's a revolving cycle. And then the community, there's so many great reports. The community begins to progress, just because one person broke free from that cycle of that grip of poverty. The return on investment of STEM is very high. You do a 4-year degree and you go out. But most importantly is the role of STEM education as an enabler for peace development. When you look at Africa as a whole, Africa has a lot of complex problems. And when you look at the whole, at the core of STEM education is design thinking, human-centered design, meaning the ability to get the human beings who live in the midst of the problems, capture the requirements and develop solutions for them with their input. And that modality, that way of thinking is necessary in order to solve the sort of problems that Africa has. So STEM education is essential for not just the developed world, but for Africa,
More,
especially
more importantly for Africa, because
for
like you
Africa.
said, we're dealing with really wicked problems or complex problems,
Very
if you like.
complex. We need a
And
STEM thinking.
you need STEM thinking, you need that human centered thinking. You talked about solving problems earlier on. How can we solve the problems that we have? And I've often said that only Africans can solve the African problem, because context does matter. We can't take solutions that has worked in other climes and think we can just do a cut and paste to solve our problems. We have a different environment, different cultural settings, and all of that that needs to be taken into account. And it is just so important that we own those solutions. We must own those solutions. And in order for us to own those solutions, we must get educated first. And that is so, so important. I like what you said about the pipeline again, more or less. These girls come in and then they become, a source of empowerment for the community to continue as well. So it's like paying it forward all the time. So the community continues. Because when we start these communities, we also have to think about sustaining the community for the long term. And people coming into those communities need to see themselves as servants first, more than anything. You know, servant leadership mindset. That is what we need to bring to this space. More comments here. Tutu says, Sister Tribe, I like the sound of that. They help you with being accountable to your goal, like, your accountability partners. That is correct. We need to decolonize our minds in the continent. Absolutely, Mariama. We need to own our problems. We need to find solutions, and we need to step up on education, especially the girl child education. Now, talking about learning at the speed of need. I do a lot of training. I've been a consultant since 2009, almost 15, 16 years now. And I take, I have passion, just like you, for human development, because I just, the one thing that breaks my heart is, and that is why when you see a 15-year-old, 13, 14 being pushed to go and be married, it breaks your heart, because this young girl can do so much more. I mean, if you see what I'm trying to say, a 13-year-old shouldn't be getting married. So, and then that aside, when I also see people who I believe these are really capable people, they can do more than this. But a lot of people don't have the environment. There's no one to mentor. There's a whole, they are at a disadvantage, if you like. But there are people out there who are so capable. All they need is just that little encouragement, just that little coaching, just that little mentoring, and you'll be amazed what they can achieve. Now, our environment is changing, and it is changing so fast. Like I said before, I've been a trainer for a long time. But one thing I see that is changing also is that I think, especially for organizations, we are moving away from all this idea of going away for 1 week training and coming back with all these manuals, you know, from the training. And you get into your organization, you are not even able to execute on this 1 week training. You don't even remember 20% of what you were taught in the first instance, let alone executing. So I have a feeling, or we can already see that there's a shift happening there, and that training is being the responsibility for our training and development somewhat seems to be is being pushed back to us, so to speak, because today at the touch of a button, Google, you can do a lot of research online, right? A whole lot of research online. A lot of us are within, communities. There are a lot of training online. For example, on LinkedIn, you have LinkedIn Learning, you have Coursera, you have Udemy, and all of that. And that is coming from the fact that it's a case of learning now. I need to know this bit of stuff to do what I have to do. And because of that, I can go online, I can research. My employers know I have that capability and the capacity to do that. How can we bring that to do more of encouraging our young? And I'm saying this because there's a lot of distraction. Okay, there's a lot of distraction, and yet there's a lot of information out there on the same internet, on the same platforms that we have. What do you say to that?
I homeschooled my children for a couple of years, and I was I was in Canada recently, and my daughter, she's a junior in Princeton studying software engineering. She came to visit, and we went on a walk down Humber River. I typically go on that walk in the winter, and when we went together, and she was like, "Oh, mom, did you see do you first of all she started with the land that do you know the story of this land, this place that you are walking?" So I said, "No, what story is that?" So she began to educate me about the American Indians and really talk about the original owners, of the land and their history. And then she looked around and she saw they had the swan, they had the different animals, and she began to tell me about that. "Oh, do you see the difference between this and this?" So I was like, "Oh my goodness, how come I have done this work so many times? How come I never saw any of this? How come she looked at the goose and the geese, and she was just telling me all of that." So I said, "How come this is the first time and you're telling me all of that?" She was like, "Oh, mom, that's how you taught us when we homeschooled. Can you remember that you made the world our classroom, that you were always telling us about the trees, the different type of trees, and we would go home and research and everything?" And then I looked around and I said, "Really? I can't even remember. It's
You
been
can't
some
even
time."
remember.
But that has stuck with her, and that is her lifestyle. So the reason I told that story, because you asked me a question, how can we encourage the youth? What I was doing intuitively was making my children curious about the world that they live in. So you see, just it was in January she came to visit, because she had that inborn curiosity which I had nurtured when she was young. Just taking a walk down, she was curious about the world and she
I
wanted
was
to
educating you.
and she was educating me. So I said, "Oh, I was teaching you people. I forgot to teach my own self." But anyway, what for the youth, it is very important that you help them become curious. And one of the ways you help any human being become curious is by letting them ask you questions and you asking them questions. "What do you think? I care about your opinion. I want you to have an opinion." When I was growing up, my father, because we had to write all those essays, we used to have family meetings. And he would say, "What is your opinion?" Everybody had to have an opinion, no matter what age you were. And so the other children, they have a characteristic where they have a lot of opinions,
Yeah,
because that was not
imbibed.
in us when we were young. But the ability to ask questions and not be afraid to ask questions
Mm.
helps in breeding innovation. It helps in building a curious mindset.
Mind.
That means that you are not just accepting information that comes your way. You are asking why. Why is it like this? And once a child begins to ask why, that child is building their critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
They're learning that they can think for themselves, their moral agency. My parents' generation, they used to say a child should not be seen. You can be seen, but you should not be heard.
Heard.
But that was okay because of the type of because of the development in their world. It was we are in the fourth industrial revolution with
Yeah.
like knowledge base, but they were in the industrial revolution that was all it was all automotive and
Hmm.
automobile,
Hmm.
where basically manufacturing. You didn't have to
Absolutely.
ask questions. We're in a different revolution. In this revolution, we're looking for people who have curious minds who will become innovators. And that starts by allowing them ask questions from a very young age. And then you asking them questions, you engaging them in questions and asking them, what do you think? Why should it be like this? Because the beautiful thing about the brain is that the brain is neuroplastic. That
Yeah.
means that you can always rewire the brain. The brain is always learning. You can always mold a human being's brain, so that the brain functions in the way that you want it to
Hmm.
function.
Hmm.
So if you want innovative people, allow them to learn by failing. Allow
Curious. Yeah.
them to be curious.
Hmm.
So at a young age, that is what you want to do. But when you look at the topic, this particular question, learning at the speed of need, there is, like you said, there is so much information. There's LinkedIn Learning, there's Coursera. A lot of organizations want you to be ready by the time you come to work. They're not willing to send you to any training. And that is all well and good, but it can be intimidating, and it can encourage what I call tribal learning. That
Yeah. I
means,
need you to move. You're going out of focus a little bit. Yes. That's better.
is
Yeah.
it
That's
better?
better. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that can encourage tribal learning, that can encourage self-directed learning outside of community. There's always benefit in being part of a community even when you are learning. So with your sincerely agile, where you are training people to get into the world of agile, doing it with other people is just research has shown that it is more effective, because in a community, people ask questions, you
Yeah.
learn from the questions. So learning at the speed of need involves being a curious person, having strong motivation, having strong being intuitive, initiative, but also willing to be part of a community, so that you can learn at the speed of need and be ready to deliver when you do get a job opportunity.
Absolutely. Community-based learning is so, so, so important. I mean, I lead a community. I belong to several other communities because, I mean, knowledge is so vast. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. And like you said, this is a knowledge economy now. We're not, we've moved away from, well, the industrial period era is long gone now. This is now the knowledge economy. And I was reading a book a few days ago, and in that book they used BMW, the car makers. They were looking at their factory, how they have digitized their factory, how they are using software. So in the few years to come, BMW is actually saying, this is a company that manufactures car, that the people that they will employ will be more of software engineers than people who actually make the cars, the physical car itself. Because today, a car is like a software on wheels. And this is where the knowledge economy is coming from. And this is where organizations cannot afford to still use the management models and styles from that era. Today you will be stifling your organization, and you will be in the way of innovation if you do that. So it is a knowledge economy. But even before we get to that organization, I love what you're saying here. Children ask questions. Why? 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 We should honor that space for them. Okay? Because that is learning at the speed of need right there. Why is this like this? Why is that like that, mommy? Why is that like that, daddy? But often, as parents, we can be impatient, stop disturbing me, kind of thing. But we really should honor that space and hold that space of curiosity for them, so that it becomes something they do continuously. Okay. I was reading again one article not so long ago, and in that article, the article was talking about all the qualities we need to be great, to be innovative, to be creative as adults within our organization, how we already have them as a child when we were so innocent. But as we start to grow up, we start to lose it. We become more aware of ourselves, and we start to lose it. We don't want to be vulnerable anymore, kind of thing. Meanwhile, those attributes we have as children, where we fall down and we get up again and go, where we're asking questions, where we are not afraid to be vulnerable, those are the exact attributes we need to make the world a better place. But unfortunately, somewhere along the line, we tend to shed it. So I'm just reiterating that because I felt that was just so important. If you're a parent, you still have young children. I mean, I'm a grandmother now already, and I'm trying to practice more of that with my grandson. We must honor that space, especially when you have a grandson who is on the spectrum. They are very persistent. You know, very very persistent. He will come to you and he will tell you a number and he wants you to repeat it. If you don't repeat it, he will keep repeating it. So he's really teaching me a lot of patience. So we really need to honor that space and you know let our children grow up being able to be vulnerable and continuously be curious. That is so important. Another thing you touched on, more or less, is self leadership. Self leadership. Even for us who I can say have stepped forward as leaders in our communities, first we have to lead ourselves. First we have to lead ourselves before we can step forward as leading anybody. And what do you say about self-leadership, especially for the young people you mentor? How does that help us as we progress through life?
Going back to what I talked about in order for people, for children, youth to be innovators, they have to be very curious. You have to create curiosity, by asking them questions and giving
Mhm.
them opportunity to ask questions. Another thing is that you have to create an environment where it's safe to fail.
Yeah.
I know Dr. Carol Dweck of Stanford did an experiment about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, and really talked about the kids. I think the experiment was on mathematics, that kids who had difficult problems to solve, but that those kids who were persistent and who didn't get it the first time, but felt that if they try hard that they could get it, that those students were actually more successful than kids that gave up just after one try. That's not exactly the experiment, but you go and Google it. Carol
Yeah.
Dweck is a knowledge economy, but the name is Carol Dweck. I'm trying to get myself centered. My check keeps on
And
rolling.
that's okay. Uh-huh.
Apologies. But you have to create an environment where it's safe to fail. You find that a lot of people, whether they're educators or whether they're parents, they have an expectation from a child. And whether that child has the ability in terms of their brain development or personality to meet their expectation is irrelevant to the parent. The parent now responds by critiquing the child and saying, oh, why didn't you measure up? What of the other people? Like, in Nigerians do that a lot. The person that got 100%, does the person have two heads? Why didn't you measure up? At a young age and all the way to university, the self-esteem, just looking at brain. I'm a brain integrated coach, so I talk a lot about the brain. Just looking at the brain, you've got to build esteem. You've got to be intentional about building esteem in the child. And negative feedback is definitely not the way to build
It's
that
not
esteem.
telling a child you're so stupid all the time, not
Critiquing the
encouraging
child,
them.
you know,
You will knock
critiquing
down their self-esteem.
critiquing the child is not the right way to build the growth mindset. So,
Mhm.
in addition to seeing that you want a child who is curious, you have to also create an environment where the child is able to fail and not be criticized.
Mm.
Even if the child fails, you can point out some other good things and say you can try again.
What can they learn from it? Take it as
Yes,
feedback.
yes, and that is how they begin to learn self leadership, because self leadership really is about The hardest person to lead is yourself, whether
Yes.
you're a child or you're an adult. It's easy to talk to other people about what they should do, but it's very hard to lead
To
yourself.
hold the mirror to ourselves.
Yes, because one of the things about self leadership is that you have to be aware. You have to be aware of yourself. You have to be aware of your strengths. You have to be aware of your areas of challenge. You have to be open to feedback because your own insight of yourself may not be accurate. The way you are judging yourself may not be accurate. I know
No.
in organizations they do 360-degree feedback because we all have blind spots. So
Yeah.
self leadership starts with self awareness. Once you are aware, I talk about self leadership across 5 areas when I'm talking to adults. I call them the 5 F's. I will talk a bit about them if we have more time. But you have to be aware, you have to have insight about yourself. And once you have insight about yourself, you have to be humble and open minded enough to say, hey, I need some resources in order to move the needle from where I am to where I need to be. So taking ownership, being aware of yourself, taking ownership of getting a solution to help you in your growth. That's what I call it, growing. One of the things my mentor John Maxwell says that in order to grow yourself, you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the self-awareness. And when you do the self-awareness, now you get resources. And when you get resources, and begin to invest in your personal development. He says again, the greatest thing you can do is invest in your personal development. You have to be able to measure your progress. I believe that what you cannot measure, you cannot actually,
Manage.
yes, you can manage. So you have to say, hey, when I started this journey, this is where I was. So,
Where
and
am
this
I
is where
now?
I am. One of the things, one of the programs I'm doing right now is with the Girl Force Movement community. The Girl Force Movement community is a community, or it's a coalition of non-profit organizations that are serving the girl child in the grassroots across the UN SDGs, the 17 UN SDGs. So the Girl Force movement is focused in Nigeria. So we have different non-profit organizations, but
Hmm.
we also have people who are just individuals who are just girl child advocates. They identify themselves as girl child advocates, and we welcome them to our community because our community is a learning community.
Yeah.
So a lot of knowledge is being exchanged. People have events, they're looking for volunteers. So it's an opportunity to network. It's also an opportunity to collaborate around programs. And we have a community of care. We're creating a community of care. And one of the things that I am doing in the Girl Force movement is by delivering programs that individuals that participate in a program within the community, within any community, some people will be serious, others will be like, oh my goodness, I'm just here to just read and entertain myself. But those who are really committed and willing to do the work, by participating in these programs, they can check their growth, to see how they are growing, to say, like on Mondays, we say Mondays is motivation Monday because people always say Mondays is moody Monday. But we call it motivation Monday, and I always start with writing, and as the chair, I write to them. But I really want people to do the exercise so that journal prompts, I do journal prompts, so that they can notice that, I used to wake up on Mondays and not feel excited, but now
Yeah.
coming June, I started in January. In June, I'm not excited that it's Monday. So
There's a change.
you can try, you can see the transformation. So I have programs, seven, like Sunday is self-care Sunday, and I tell you to be intentional about your spiritual self-care, which is caring for your inner being, so that you can show up on Monday ready to
Mm.
slay. So each day of the week we have a program, but all of that is comes under self-leadership, because the leaders of these organizations, they are going to go to the organizations and have to make decisions on the fly. In order to make decisions on the fly, your brain has to be working. You have to have slept,
Yes.
and you have to be able to function at your peak.
Yeah.
So having programs, or challenges that help you develop yourself is really
Hmm.
very important as part of self leadership. You have to be
Absolutely.
intentional. You cannot just think that you
Mm.
can't bring it. You can't say that, oh, in order to lead myself, it will just happen. No, it won't happen like that.
We
You
have
have
to be
to read
intentional.
books. You have to be reading books. You can participate in different challenges. Like on Tuesday, we say Transformation Tuesday. What steps are you going to take in order to achieve your goals and live the life of your dream? On Wednesday, we say Winning Wednesday. Celebrate your wins. How you celebrating your wins? On Thursday is Thankful Thursday. But being part of a structured program that is helping you develop your self-awareness, helping you grow, helping you develop your mastery of emotions, helping you develop your social intelligence. All of these things are very important, helping you develop your communication skills, helping you develop your ability to make decisions, your ability to think critically. You assess yourself on these areas. These things are very important. You have to be intentional about developing yourself in order
Very, very.
to lead other people.
Very, very intentional. I mean, you talked about the 360 feedback. I went through one a few months ago, and it was just last week because I'm going through some leadership training myself, and I had to send the questions to members of my community and some other people, for feedback. And you know what? I think it was this morning or yesterday morning that I sent a message to the community, to the people who gave me feedback, to say, thank you so much for your feedback. Feedback is a gift because, like you said, we have blind spots and we can only grow through awareness of the gaps that we have. Okay. If we hold the mirror to ourselves and we're honest with ourselves, we will see some of those gaps, but we may not see them all. And that is where feedback is so, so important so that we can continue to grow. Before we can lead anybody, we have to lead ourselves first. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Roberta. Self leadership is so, so, so key. Oh, how time goes when you're having fun, right? Now, very quickly, I know you've worked with, I mean, the one time I asked of you from a friend, I heard, oh, she's in Italy, in Slumberger or something. All the organizations where you have worked as an engineer, what did that feel like, being in that male dominated sector? We've got 4 minutes before we wrap up.
I believe it informed my work in Think STEM Foundation, because working in Schlumberger, working on the oil rig, I experienced a lot of what I call microaggression. I definitely didn't feel like I belonged. They were intentional about telling me I did not
You
belong.
don't belong here.
So yeah, my coming from university with a first class, thinking I'm the best thing since sliced bread, only for some people to put me down in the right place and say, "Sit down, young girl. You don't belong here." So I mean, I laugh about it now, but then it wasn't a laughing matter at all. So I experienced imposter syndrome, feeling you are not competent enough, different, I call it double competence, where they want you to prove that you are a real engineer after getting your degrees, as if you are going back to, you have to prove that that degree you actually worked hard for it. And but you find that all that experience is still being experienced today by young girls,
Absolutely.
irrespective of the changes that, the changes in organizations, to make sure that there is DI, there's a lot of
Yeah.
inclusion,
Hmm.
diversity, equity, and inclusion. Despite all the programs, you find that a lot of young girls still face the imposter syndrome, the double competence, the microaggression, just that sense of not belonging. That's why I always encourage young girls to also belong to an association like, Women in Technology
Yeah.
International is one of them, for tech professionals,
Hmm.
Society of Women Engineers. But coming alongside, stick back to that sister tribe mentality, coming alongside with other women, so you
Hmm.
don't feel like you are that this you don't take it personal, because when you take it personal, it affects your productivity, it
Absolutely.
affects your self-esteem and your belief in yourself. But when you find out that everybody is experiencing it, that when you raise your hand and you say you respond to a question, they ignore it, but when the guy responds, they're like, "Oh, that's such a brilliant idea." So understanding how to navigate that space, you
Mhm.
actually learn these things. These are things you learn, and sometimes they don't come naturally, because you can be off-putting, you can be too aggressive. So understanding how to be socially and emotionally intelligent, is you have to be intentional about that
So,
to
so that
develop
they can
an
navigate that
organization.
challenge.
Sorry?
so that they can navigate that
So that
challenge.
you can navigate that challenge and break the glass there, break
Yeah, yeah,
shatter the glass ceiling
yeah,
and be promoted. Within your organization, you have to belong to associations. The programs they
absolutely,
offer help. I know we are
absolutely.
running out of time.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much, Winifred. It's also the International Women's Month, so I'm celebrating you. Honestly, you are, I mean, your girl tribe. We've had our own girl tribe for 4 decades now, if I can say that. I'm celebrating you. Thank you for all that you do for the, girl system. We really appreciate you. Please connect with Winifred on LinkedIn. And next week, Sunday, we have Stephen Omojuigbe. We're going to be talking about organizational change management strategies in agile transformation. Thank you so much, Winifred. We really appreciate you. Thank you to the audience. Thank you for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much.
always.
Thank you,
I really
Mary. Thank
appreciate you
you.
all.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Bye bye.
will.
Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye. Bye. Bye.